Hello and welcome to the Tuesday, May 6, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and today I'm recording from San Diego, California. In diaries today, I saw some initial attacks against Samsung's MagicInfo CMS. This is a somewhat defunct, not quite a really sort of maintained piece of software anymore. But last August, Samsung did release a patch for it, fixing an arbitrary file upload vulnerability that then can lead to remote code execution. This particular vulnerability was not really noticed much, part probably because of the very sort of short one-liner that Samsung published about it. Last week, Cybersecurity Info did cite some research reports. Sadly, I didn't see a link to the actual research report or any more attribution to it, but this particular article about the research report did quote it, noting particular URL that's being used to upload these files, and then also some additional details about the vulnerability. Well, a couple days later, we started seeing some actual exploit attempts. These exploit attempts appear to be coming from, what's sort of often described still as Mirai, basically a botnet that does exploit various vulnerabilities. Often, of course, IoT-style vulnerabilities. This I would definitely not necessarily sort of call an IoT-style vulnerability. It is more a server component used to basically manage content. That's what CMS content management servers are doing. Not even sure how successful these exploits are, but they sort of follow very much the standard pattern where the initial upload uses a number of different ways like TFTP, wget, curl, FTP and such to download the second stage. The second stage is then the typical shell script that lists the next download that attempts to download the actual Mirai bot for various architectures, actually very extensive list in this particular version. And then, they basically just trial and run, and whatever version they get to run will then try to find additional victims. It's very well recognized by VirusTotal, so definitely not a new threat. I'm always a bit careful characterizing stuff like this still as Mirai. Yes, they probably still share some of the original Mirai code, but that has been worked on, changed, updated so many times now. So many vulnerabilities have been added by various actors to be exploited by these botnets. But ultimately, they still don't really do anything different than the original Mirai bot. Anyway, if you're running any of these Samsung MagicInfo 9 CMSs, so make sure they're patched. Like I said, the patch was released last August, but not really advertised much, so it may be easy to miss this particular patch. And if you're a user of Kali Linux, be aware that Kali Linux lost access to their original signing key. What this means is that they had to create a new signing key for any packages used by Kali Linux. And as a result, you may get some signature verification failures if you're trying to update Kali Linux. They don't specify how or why the key was lost. Could be as easy as them, basically losing a hard drive the key was stored on, not having a proper backup. They specifically state that the key was not compromised. So any packages that you have from before the key was lost that are signed by this original key should still be considered trusted. But the problem is, since basically the key was lost before they were able to push a new replacement key, you now have to do so manually and manually mark that key as trusted, that new key, in order to validate any future packages. This is mostly a problem if you're automatically updating your system. One possible solution that they recommend is just to rebuild the system from scratch. If you're downloading Kali Linux now from the official website, well, you'll get the new keys already pre-installed on the image. Not a great thing to happen, but, well, stuff happens, and good reminder to always keep multiple backups and, if possible, also just a simple printed copy of any secret keys for critical issues like this. And researchers at Microsoft published a blog warning of default configurations commonly deployed in popular Kubernetes Helm charts. Helm is a packet manager for Kubernetes, and Helm charts are essentially scripts that you're using to deploy applications. So all the necessary packages are being installed, and the application is completely installed and configured in your Kubernetes cluster. But as so often, many of the default settings in these Helm charts aren't necessarily appropriate. In particular, they're exposing ports. They're not necessarily configuring the system securely, including often missing passwords. If you're using Helm charts, definitely read the article, be aware of some of these issues so you can then fix up the configurations and make sure that they are secure. Well, that's it for today in San Diego. On Tuesday evening, I'll actually give a talk about some of the developer supply chain risks. If you happen to be here at the event, welcome to attend. If you just happen to be in the area, send me a message if you're interested. I may be able to get a couple people in here. So that's it for today, and talk to you again tomorrow. Bye.